All right, we are live. It is 9 o'clock. It's Tuesday night. It's time for the Get Off My Lawn podcast. Now, I know some of you may be having a hard time if you're watching this on YouTube, having a hard time seeing me right now, seeing as I'm kind of decked out in some camo. But that is partly, well, there's two reasons I'm decked out in camo. First of all, this is going to be our annual pre-deer season chat because I'm about to go deer hunting. Hopefully everything works out this weekend. Lord willing, and the creek don't rise, I will be out there bright and early Saturday morning for opening day. So that's part of the reason why I'm decked out in some realtree here. The other reason is I actually had planned all along I was going to put on some bright orange, and a couple weeks ago I went up to my dad's where I go hunting and just decided what the heck, I'm going to take a load with me when I go. So all my hunting stuff, all my orange, all my equipment except my rifle, everything's already up there and I don't have it here. So no orange tonight. So don't adjust your television set. This is just my head floating and you can't see anything under it because it's camouflaged. So that's what's happening. Anyway, a couple things that I want to get into, but first we're going to just let our panelists introduce themselves. I do have a link actually. Let's just throw that up on Facebook. We'll see if anybody else joins our panel. We'll see if we get any people that haven't been in here in a while or ever. Because I kind of want to have a fun discussion tonight and just swap some stories and talk about what works and talk about what doesn't. And maybe we can get into some fun discussions over calibers or rifles versus bows or whatever is the case. So we'll just kind of see what happens. And I just wanted to be kind of fun and we've had a lot of heavy issues here the last few weeks that we've been talking about. So just kind of wanted to lighten it up a little bit and just have some fun and sit around and talk about some deer hunting tonight. So we've got a couple people already in our panel. One of whom is a self-professed non-hunter. Not that he's against it, he's just never been. And the other one apparently has done a lot of hunting throughout his lifetime. So our non-hunter, or I should say our newbie who just hasn't done it yet in our group, is Defense Dad. What's up, Defense Dad?
Not much. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here. You know what else we're going to do? There we go. Now we've got a few more jumping in. Okay. And thanks for being here, Defense Dad. Okay, so we've also got Nighthawk Medic Shoots, and a little bit of the discussion that we had here pre-chat. I know that you've been out hunting at least more than once. So Nighthawk, how's it going?
Hey, man, not bad. I'm excited about tonight's topic. One of the things you learn real quick hunting is that you don't know as much as you think you know. And there's stuff out there that works really well, and there's stuff out there that works based on where you're standing at that moment. So I'm really excited to see what kind of comes out of this conversation today.
I'm kind of, like I said, just want to have some fun tonight. So, but if we can pass along any nuggets of knowledge, then we're going to do that too. So hopefully it'll be a lot of fun for everybody. All right. And then just joining us also across the great state of Nebraska, we've got Pat and Ashley with us. What's up, you two? Or you one? I don't know if it's both of you.
Just me tonight, John. No, doing good. Finally done with harvest and looking forward to some hunting.
Awesome. Yeah, it's one of those things that I kind of get cranked up about every year, just because with work and life and everything else, I don't do a lot of hunting throughout the year. I just kind of save up everything and I go chase some deer around for a week. And that's kind of what I do. About the only thing I do for hunting anymore. So
I hear you. Yep. That's about all I get done too anymore.
Cool. Well, thanks for being here. Glad you finally got the link there. And I'm glad to have you along. So if you are out there on my Facebook page and you want to join the discussion, I did just post a link. So go ahead and click that StreamYard link if you want to, and you can join our panel tonight and just kind of hang out with us. I can fit 2 more people on the screen with us, and then I can fit 4 more after that out there in the waiting room, and we can kind of cycle through if we get that many. So we'll see what happens. And I was about to just put the link. You know what? Let's go crazy. There it is in the YouTube chat as well. So if you want to be on the panel tonight, as long as you can keep your language clean and classy, then you are welcome to join us, even if you've never been before. So come on in. The water is fine. Who do we have out here in the chat tonight? We've got Mystic Guns, who was first before Kingpin, and Kingpin was right behind her, apparently. We've got, wow, our first president is here, George Washington. Iron Horseman's out there. Of course, my beautiful bride is in the chat. She is sitting here in the producer's chair, holding it down for everybody out there in the chat while I'm running my mouth, because you know how this works, guys. She does the typing, and I do the talking. Who else is out there? Blitz is out there. Defense Dad doing double duty. Pat doing double duty. I know there's more that have jumped in there. Fluffy 10mm Jeep guy. Bishop Ammunition and Firearms. What's up, Diane? Who else is out here? I know there's more. I saw some more. Travis T. And I know there will be more jumping in as the night goes. So yeah, if you want a link, come on and jump in here and join us, and we'll just have some fun. We'll have a fun discussion tonight. So, all right, we'll get that little banner off of there and go to here. Wow, I should throw this comment up there already. The 475 Bishop Short Magnum is for vaporizing mean water-filled pumpkins. So apparently it's not for deer. I guess I'm not sure what's happening there, but if you've got any water-filled pumpkins that are terrorizing you, the mean ones, then get yourself a 475 Bishop Short Magnum, and I believe that's probably going to be a lever rifle, so that should be a lot of fun to shoot anyway. Broken Shoulder was never as fun as a 475 Bishop, so go check go check that out. Okay, so I've got a couple questions here, and I just kind of want to, I don't know that we're even going to go around the horn, but depending on where you live, the type of deer hunting that you do is definitely going to vary. Of course, throughout the world, but even throughout the United States here. So I guess just is there anybody currently on our panel who is hunting anything besides whitetails where you live or where you hunt? Okay, well, don't all speak at once. So that kind of narrows it down. We don't have any mule deer hunters in the room. We don't have any. Of course, we don't have anybody from the West Coast. So blacktail's pretty much ruled out just by geography alone. There, Bishop says it's an AR-10 platform, not a lever. So even more fun. So go get yourself one of those. That sounds like a lot of fun. And I'm pretty sure that if you talk to them, they probably have them in stock even. So that would be really cool. All right. So the next thing I want to know is, I guess we can kind of take some turns here. Defense Dad's kind of going to be, maybe we won't call on you as much because, like I said, you already had told us you don't have that experience there. So why did that not? Well, that's kind of weird. It didn't like it when I pasted that. All right. Well, we're going to put a space between StreamYard and the .com. When you copy that and paste it, take that space out. Now I can't believe it didn't let me put that up on my own. That's really weird. Okay. Well, there's a link if everybody wants it in there or wants to jump in here. So, all right. So Nighthawk, when you go deer hunting, is it mostly firearm? Do you bow hunt? Do you do any kind of muzzle loading or all of the above? Or
I'm a center fire guy. I
what's
only
your
use
bag,
firearms. Baby? I'm like I said, straight firearm guy. I don't do any of the fancy, high-speed, intelligent versions of hunting like muzzle loading and bow hunting. Those are true, man. I like my firearms.
So, does that mean that you don't consider yourself a true man?
Not at that capacity. I've got friends out there that would use smoke grenades and a hatchet if it was legal. They're really into hunting and getting down there and getting dirty. There's still a certain amount of separation with using a rifle.
Absolutely. All right. So Pat, when you go and hunt deer, are you mostly rifle hunting, or do you bow hunt, or what do you get into? You killed your camera, but you didn't unmute yet. All right. Well, we'll come back to Pat. Something might have been going on that wasn't a good time to call on you. What I really want to know too is, and as people come in, if we get any other guests in here, we'll go back and give everybody else the chance to sound off as well. But what I really want to know is, I guess I didn't answer my own question. I don't bow hunt just because, well, a couple different reasons. Number one, I don't have the cash to get started with bow hunting because it's more than just a $500 bow. You're looking at arrows and lots of different camo for lots of different climates and practicing and for me it's logistics. There's just a whole lot of reasons why it's just not worth it to me at this point in my life to get into it, coupled with the fact that I don't climb trees and I can't sit still, so I've got to be in a blind somewhere too if I'm going to do it. So I rifle hunt. I wouldn't mind getting maybe sometime into muzzle loading. I've just never done any kind of muzzle loader shooting. And so, and again, I mean, it's always the initial startup cost to get going and get the practice there too is sometimes prohibitive for a lot of people. So George Washington says he's pretty good with a flintlock himself, which makes sense, I suppose. I'm sure that's what you grew up with. So makes a lot of sense there, General. So what I really want to know is, and we'll go to Nighthawk now next too. What is your reason, or if you have more than one reason, why do you hunt deer? Maybe. You're still muted, Nighthawk. Did you hear me call on you?
Yeah, I'm just talking away happily.
Okay, good. I was making sure. I lost everybody all of a sudden. Everybody's muted up on me.
Just happily talking away to myself. The focus is genuine conservation. And when we're talking about what we have done as human beings, which is to eliminate all predators, we then have to ensure that we are keeping these populations in check for the health of the populations. And so I haven't been deer hunting in a few years now because there hasn't been a big need for it, but been very focused on hog hunting. The reality of the situation is if we ever stop, if people who are capable of hunting do not hunt, then we will see some damage to the ecosystem because certain populations will get out of control.
Yep, very true. And we hear more and more car versus deer accidents on the highway all the time because they are, the populations are growing. I don't know of any part of the country at this point where the deer populations are dwindling. So, I mean, it's just, the population controls a lot of it. I mean, I've got a lot of reasons why I do it. Part of it is, I mean, there's some of it's that, some of it is to keep the population, especially the herd, even though they're fair chase, there's no high fences. These are all wild fair chase deer that come across my family ranch. But, so to keep the herd healthy, keep the numbers controlled, things like that, then yeah, I mean, I'm not the only one that hunts there. There are quite a few deer taken every year and not so many that it can't sustain, the herd can't sustain itself. But at the same time, I mean, it's not, my dad says there's still too many because they come and eat off of his corn pile all winter long. And so he's probably feeding almost as many deer as he is cows at this point with his corn every year, in his hay bales. So he would just as soon see more of them taken out. But I mean, I like to eat the deer. I think they're delicious. So I do it for that reason. I do it because it gets me away from the world. It gets me away from, work and everything else. And just, I get to go out and just kind of hang out, and I get to go home, first of all, which not everybody gets to hunt on their home place, but I get to go home and just kind of hang out and spend, the better part of a week, just kind of doing whatever I want to up there and just go and sit and reminisce about, the last 40 years of my life, and all the fun times I've had hunting deer and everything else up there. So it is the thrill of putting that really great shot on a deer. And, if it's a nice looking buck, then there's that. If it's, a big healthy doe, then, equally good trophy. I'm one of those guys that I don't specifically hunt for trophy deer, but I'm not going to pass one up. I mean, We don't have I don't have enough freezer space to just go out and do a cull hunt every year where, you know, I get a few extra tags and then just go, you know, drop a half dozen deer just to keep the numbers thin. I mean, I'd love to be able to do that, but I don't have the freezer space, or again, for me, the time, the equipment, partly the ability to process, you know, especially that many deer. So I generally just have one taken and done for me. So I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there in the chat. It's either Cal or California L. I'm not sure which, but I'm just gonna say Cal. And if that's not what your name actually is, Cal, then I'm sorry, but it's Cal now. It was asking Sandhills sweetheart if she hunts. Now she says she doesn't. She says she pets the deer and cries. She does not get a deer permit, and she does not carry a firearm, but she'll go with me, provided that I don't expect her to be up, you know, early, because it's her vacation time too, and she does not get up and go out where it's cold and it's dark early in the mornings. So generally what happens is I'll go out and set up before sunup, you know, and then mid-morning or so when I get hungry and it's time to go find some breakfast, then I'll go back to the house, and by then she's up and going, and then she kind of rides with me the rest of the day. So it's not that she's against it. She just doesn't do it herself, and that's totally cool. Well, thought Edward was going to join us, but I guess he's leaving. But I mean, for me, it's just, there's so many different things out there in the chat. And like I said, if anybody wants to jump in, do so. You don't have to stay the whole time. You can just kind of pop in and say your piece and pop back out if you want to. But let us know if you're hunters, you know, why do you do it? There's a lot of great reasons. So Iron Horseman says it's good practice for zombies. Now, I've never had a zombie deer actually come and try to eat my brain, but I don't know how good a practice it is, because everything I've ever seen about zombies tells me you don't shoot them center mass.
Yeah. And the other thing is, most of the time, the deer that I've encountered weren't going for my throat. As a matter of fact, they were fairly challenging to get to come in at all.
Yeah, exactly. They don't get too close to you. It's kind of the other way around. So I don't know necessarily, Iron Horseman, that I can agree with that statement. And the other thing is, I mean, once I shoot one deer, unless I've got extra tags, then I'm done.
Yeah.
And it seems like encountering one zombie, just randomly one lone zombie, seems kind of, you know, just highly improbable too. So it may not be the best zombie practice. I think headshots work better for zombies. I try not to head shoot deer. Does anybody out there in the chat do anything besides going for a heart lung shot? Because I know a lot of people, I shouldn't say a lot of people. I've known several different people that have gone for neck shots and try to break the shoulder bone, things like that, so they don't run away. So that, I guess that's my next question is, Blitz wants to know, do zombies have a rut? I don't think so, because I think zombies reproduce just by biting or scratching you, and they don't have to rut to make more zombies.
I mean, but we're in the middle of rut season right now, so this would be a good time to figure it out.
Elephant in the room too is zombies are slow moving,
unless they're chasing Ving Rames, and then they will run.
True.
So if you're not hunting with Ving Rames, you'll probably be okay. Just saying. How did this go to a zombie chat? This is fun.
I don't know.
what the heck even happened? Iron Horseman says make it challenging and shoot for the head on a dead run. Well, I mean, there's true. Here's an actual good question. You know what? Let's do Q&A. We'll go through some of the questions that I have, but George Washington's got a great question. What portion of fat does anyone mix for leaner deer meat? So if you're, I think that's probably asking about grinding it. If you process your own venison and you grind it into burger, then what do you mix in for fat so that it's not, you know, because anybody that's had a burger made out of straight 100% ground venison,
sinew.
Well, not only that, but I mean, you better be putting some ketchup or something on that burger, because it's going to be hard to choke it down. They are really dry.
Yep.
So I So what do you do, or do you process your own Nighthawk?
I have mine processed, and then I'm an 80-20 guy, just like Blitz.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, that's so I have the ground brought back, and then I put in about half a handful of kidney meat per 2 pounds of deer meat, or kidney fat per 2 pounds of deer meat.
Okay. All right, there you go. So hopefully, George Washington, that answers your question out there. Fluffy 10mm Jeep guy says, get your deer and then start hunting coyote. Not a bad plan, actually. Not going to rule that one out. Although I've got coyote calls, but I never think to take them. And I've never actually taken the things out because I forget to put them in my hunting kit, actually. That's another thing I've never done. I mean, I grew up with coyotes all around, but I've never actually called one in myself. I've shot coyotes before, just, when the opportunity presents itself, but but not specifically called them just to hunt them. So, one of these nights, if I ever make contact, I actually know a fairly well-known within the predator hunting circles. A fairly well-known coyote caller is Randy Anderson from north central Nebraska, and where he lives is only about a half an hour drive away from where I hunt deer on the home place there. So he's a cool guy, and sometime I should actually see if I can get him just to come and hang out with on a live chat sometime. That'd be cool.
Oh yeah.
Or at the very least, maybe I could get some cool filming in sometime if I could just get him to come over and call a few coyotes over on Dad's. That'd be cool too. Out there talking about meat, Blitz says, I've heard of 90-10 pork fat, but haven't tried that. One thing I've always wanted to try myself, and I've never done it. Long time ago, I was reading an article somewhere. Not an article. It was actually in the, I think in the letters. It was either Field and Stream or Outdoor Life magazine. I can't tell you which, but somebody had written in on the letters to the editor section there and was talking about meat recipes for venison. And they said, go buy some smoked bacon and grind that up and then mix that at about a 10-to-1 ratio or a 90-10 ratio with your venison. And not only will that put the fat in there, but it'll also give you that kind of smoky flavor throughout your deer burger. And I've always wanted to try that, but I just haven't ever done that.
Well, I was going to ask, coming from a food background, does anybody ever get like a pork belly and have that mixed in?
No, we make a lot of meatloaf with ours, though, and typically you'll mix in 3 different meats, and so that's beef and pork and venison then. So you get a good balance of the fats in those 3 meats together. It makes a good meatloaf.
A lot of people around these parts, too, just go straight 50-50, mix it 50-50 with just ground beef, and that seems to work pretty well, too. Like if you get like an 80% ground beef or either a 73 or an 80% ground beef, and then mix that with your venison, and that brings some fat into it too. So
yeah, that's kind of what my cousin does. His mom is actually works at a restaurant, and they put all their bacon into an oven, and they catch all the drippings from all the bacon that they make. And he takes that, and when he grinds up his deer meat, I think it's 2 tablespoons of bacon grease to a pound of deer hamburger. And it is absolutely awesome.
There you go. Now this is turning into a food chat, which is totally fine with me, because that's part of the thing about hunting the deer. If you hunt the deer and then you don't do anything with the meat or donate it to somebody who will, then it's a complete waste. And at least that's just my opinion, but it's my show, so I'll give those. So yeah, it's definitely something that you want to be able to enjoy the fruits of your labor. You get out with the nature, and it's one of those things where I don't know if everybody has this kind of experience, but the first year that Sandhills Sweetheart went deer hunting with me, and the first deer that I ever shot when she was along, literally that what she said earlier, that's what she did. She sat there and was petting the deer after we went up to it and telling it it's okay, it's gonna be okay, which the deer had expired. It wasn't still alive at that point. It was not hurting, it was not suffering.
You didn't
was-
gut shoot it.
It was fast and instant. He was dead before he knew what hit him.
This will be the final episode
well
of
done.
Get Off My Lawn.
But-
'Cause Mrs. Sandhills is going to expire John after the show.
But no, here's the thing though, is I get it. And she was sad. I mean, she had tears in her eyes. It's a beautiful creature. And I totally get it. It's not without a degree of sadness myself. Not only sadness, but reverence for nature, gratitude that God would see fit to send such a beautiful, majestic creature to be harvested. So I get it. I mean, if it doesn't move you to an extent, then I don't think you're looking at things the same way that I do. And that's, I mean, I just wanted to kind of throw that in there too. So I completely get it. Anybody that's saddened by it, I mean, it's a sad, happy thing. I guess that's what sappy means, right? So, but anyway. So George Washington wants to know if anyone's getting their smokehouses ready. I don't have a smokehouse. That would be cool. I've got a good friend across town that smokes a lot of meat, not in a smokehouse, just in a regular smoker. But yeah, Clover Tech kind of echoed the same thing I just said. If you don't feel something for taking a life, even an animal's life, then I got to worry about you a little bit. I shoot a lot of coyotes in the face, but it does kill my soul just a bit to do so. So yeah, I mean, anytime that you kill one of God's creatures, even if it is something that you're gonna put it to good use. I mean, it's still a death. And to not at least be a little bit reverent towards that notion. I mean, yeah, I agree. There's something wrong with you. So, and I understand that hunting deer or hunting any animal, that's not for everybody. Not everybody can do it. Not everybody wants to. And I totally get that too. So, Pat, you're back, and I didn't really ask you a whole lot or get a chance to ask you earlier. When you hunt your deer, are you a rifle hunter or bow hunter, muzzleloader? What are you into when you go hunt them?
Yeah, I'm primarily center fire. It's just always what I've been into because I just like the guns versus the bows, I guess. There's anything wrong with a bow. My brother has done a little bow hunting in the past, but just always liked the gun over the bow, I guess. So, usually shooting about a 30 caliber.
There you go. So then we kind of skipped you a little bit too, as far as the why. So when you're doing your deer hunting, what are the reasons that you hunt? Reason or reasons, however many there are.
Well, to quote a very famous band from the 80s and 90s, the Yoopers, it's my chance to drink beer and get away from the wife. No, seriously. It's just to get out in nature and be able to sit there, get in there just right before the sun comes up. And some of the coolest things I've gotten to see in nature is when I'm just sitting there and everything is quiet and hear the quail rustling around, coming out of the trees, chirping around at your feet. And when you're in a deer stand or on a ground blind, or many a times I've actually seen coyotes come in most of my spots before I actually see deer. So it's just a chance to just completely blend in with nature and just get to experience it on a different level than just like a walk or, going to a park or something like that. It's just a totally different experience altogether. And especially if you can take somebody with you. Like I got my cousin started into deer hunting about 6 years ago now, and we at least go a couple times a year together. And he's always shot a doe with me. Get either calling them in, or just out of pure dumb luck. But there's a lot of camaraderie in it too, especially when you can bring somebody along, and it makes the experience, at least for me anyway, a lot more enjoyable because you get to share that experience with somebody, and
Absolutely.
it just makes it more fun, especially when you're out there with a buddy or out there with your wife.
Yeah, and I've been saying for a few weeks now that I get to take my two nephews, my wife's brother's boys, his two oldest boys. They've never been hunting. That they didn't grow up in a house that they had any hunters in, and the oldest one had wanted to go hunting, and I told him that if he can convince his parents to let him off school for a Friday and a Monday, this coming weekend, that I'd take him hunting. And so then I found out that it's not just the 14-year-old, the 12-year-old wants to go too. And I said, that's totally cool with me. So yeah, we're going to meet about halfway between here and Sioux Falls and pick them up on Thursday, and then take them up, and we'll do some hunting on Saturday and Sunday. And then I got to take them home on Monday. So it's way more exciting for me, the notion of getting somebody their first deer, than me shooting my, I don't even know now. I lost track. I mean, I've been hunting for almost 30 years, and I haven't gotten a deer every year, but I mean, there's been so many of them that, I never even counted them. So, it's not that it's boring. It's not that it's not a thrill, but for me, it's way more exciting to get somebody else into it and be there and experience that first time, experience with somebody. I mean, that's really cool. And I've done that before, and it's just, you can't really even describe that experience. The best I can do is tell you to go, just go watch some of the videos of some of the, either the hunting shows on TV, or a lot of people that just, made their own private videos on YouTube, and posted them on YouTube, and, that took their kid out for their first ever, deer hunt. And I mean, just to see the expression on somebody, their kid, or their significant other, whatever it is. I mean, it's just a cool feeling to, if you've experienced it yourself, then you kind of get some of those feelings back when you watch those videos, how whoever was filming that, probably felt too. So it's kind of cool. All right. So you got a few comments out there in the chat. Looks like, we're talking calibers a little bit. Oh, we're talking about first guns. Pat, how old were you when you shot your first deer?
Actually, I was a big bird hunter before I was a deer hunter, and was pheasant hunting at the age of 10. And when I actually took my first deer, I was either 15 or 16. It's been so dang long ago. But yeah, that's when I went with my dad. I had the 22 250, and he had a Browning 270. And yeah, I tell you what, that first one, you never forget your first one. And it was just a doe. I mean, it wasn't, wasn't a big buck or anything, but that first one will always stick with you. I don't care if it's small, or if it's big, or if it's Boone and Crockett. It doesn't matter. That first one will always stick with you for the rest of your life.
Absolutely. Yep. I can remember my first one was just a little fork-horn buck, but that was the first buck I'd ever shot. So yeah, that was pretty cool. Nighthawk, how old were you when you went deer hunting the first time?
I was in my 20s.
Okay.
I didn't grow up a hunter, and I actually got into it for conservation. And a buddy of mine introduced me to it under the concept of conservation. And so he took me hunting my first time, and I was already a soldier. So the concepts of marksmanship and things of that nature were well known to me. Lining up on a live target wasn't an issue. So for me, that gave me the power to kind of help deal with a significant problem in the area of the world where I lived at that time. And so I think it's, again, there are ways to bring people into hunting at all ages, right? And I'm evidence of that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I honestly, there's within reason. I mean, there's never an age too young or an age too old to get somebody out into hunting. I mean, obviously, you don't take a newborn out there in a cold, in a tree stand or in a cold blind, clearly.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you've got a youngin that can sit still for even a while, or if you've got a way to kind of mitigate some of that sound if they can't, then I mean, I've known a lot of people that took their 4 or 5 year olds out with them, and you just got to understand that you're not going to sit out there all day with somebody that young. You don't do anything all day with somebody that young. So,
trail cameras can be your friend if you've got little ones, because you set them up the day, find a couple of good rubs, set them up the day before, figure out who's hanging out in that area, and then take the little one back out there and hand them the antlers.
Right.
Let them wear themselves out.
There you go. So yeah, that's really cool. Out there in the chat, Sandhills Sweetheart is talking about the very first time ever that she went with me, the very first morning, the only time that I've gotten her to get up and go with me before sunup. And it was pretty cool. It was pretty chilly. I don't think it was snowing yet when we went out there. There might have been some snow on the ground. I don't remember, but we kind of set things up to where I figured some deer would be coming through on an alfalfa field, and there was a pile of hay bales, and it wasn't a 2-layer pile. It was just 8 bales, 4 to a row, and 2 rows side by side. But there was a little gap in the one end that we could actually kind of wedge ourselves in between the bales. So we pushed back in there a ways, and we were all bundled up and out of the wind. It got kind of nice and warm where we were. So we both just kind of fell asleep and woke up, and the sun wasn't up yet, but it was getting pretty light, and it had started to snow. And so the whole world was kind of getting blanketed in some white. And then all around us, all around the pile of bales that we were snoozing in there, I don't even remember now how many deer had come over and were just kind of grazing. And I don't know if I just wasn't snoring or if it didn't bother them, but whatever was the case, they didn't know we were there. And so that was kind of cool just to watch them. There weren't any shooters in there, so we just kind of watched them just kind of graze there for a while. And I think one of us finally caught scent of us, and then they took off. But just sitting there and just kind of hanging out, and I mean, that's pretty cool when you're so warm and cozy that you fall asleep and you wake up later and you don't even realize that it's been snowing on you. I mean, that's just a testament to the modern clothing. But yeah, the fact that nature came to us, and that was one of the coolest experiences I've ever had hunting deer in my whole life. And then the fact that it was her first experience with me, and we've got that memory, that's pretty cool too. So
heck yeah.
All right, so here's a question out there in the chat or a comment, I should say. It's still too warm in Indiana. You know what? Okay, so we had about, what'd we get? Almost 3 inches of snow before it quit snowing today. I woke up to some snow, and then it just kind of snowed most of the day, and it quit about 4 o'clock. But when it quit, we had about between 2 and 3 inches of snow here. It's all going to be gone by Friday. It's going to be 50s and pushing 60 opening weekend for highs. And then lows are going to maybe get down freezing, but probably hover around 34, 35 for overnight lows. It's just, I think it's too warm to hunt. What kind of temperature do you guys like as far as, the ideal deer hunting weather?
Well, I like it anywhere around about where it gets down just a little bit down freezing at night, and only gets up to about 45, maybe 50 at the peak of the day, and then starts cooling off pretty quickly in the evening. At least around here, that seems to where the rut really likes to kick in down here. We had that little cold snap before it got warmed back up here, and the rut has actually kicked off down here. That cold snap of weather actually got their noses on the ground, and they are running like crazy right now. And yeah, so right now this is about my perfect time. I love it to see it just right about this temperature. So always seems to kick it off around here, down here in South Central Nebraska anyways. So
I think pretty much most of Nebraska is probably kind of in that same boat where there was just enough cold weather to really get them over that hump. And I'm hearing reports kind of from one end of the state to the other where, people are seeing bucks with their nose on the ground now. So yeah, that's good for those of us that are ready to hunt this weekend. Excuse me. Nighthawk, when it comes to weather, and not just temperature, but weather, I guess, in general, what's your ideal deer hunting weather?
Tennessee has the weirdest weather in the world.
I don't think so, but go ahead.
Well, it's just, we get such random intervals. For me, it's less about what the weather's going to be and more about time. Obviously, if it's pouring rain, you're never even going to hear the deer coming from any angle. But ultimately, if you're in the rut and you've done good research and you've done good recon, it doesn't seem to, or let me put it this way, I may not have the experience that Pat does or you have in that category to understand that there's a difference in temperature. But for me, I'm looking for deer sign and I'm setting up trail cameras and I'm using the date as opposed to whatever random weather conditions Tennessee may produce during any given week. I mean, when you think about it, your granddaddy hunted in a pair of coveralls and a flannel shirt, and his technique was to sit down somewhere and get real still. And that's what I do to this day, is sit down somewhere and get real still. And as long as I've looked for good deer sign, and it's usually during rut, then you're going to get deer.
Oh, absolutely. No, and I've been saying that for a long time. I've got one pop-up blind, and I do intend to hunt from that at least in the mornings, because where I've got it set up, I know that there are deer probably morning and evening on some corn stalks that are just right beside where I've got the blind, and then I've got it set up kind of facing a little grove of trees, and I know that they kind of run through there. So as long as there aren't any of my dad's yearling calves around at the same time, it should make for some pretty decent shooting angles, whether we shoot them from the corn stalks or from the pasture next to them. But as far as that goes, I mean, my favorite deer blind of all time has got 4 tires, a motor, a heater, and a radio.
Amen, brother.
Now, I know that not everybody hunts in an area.
absolutely.
Not everybody is blessed like I am. I get it. Some people have to go out in the middle of thick trees. Some people have to go out and hunt, real rough hilly country. But to be honest, I mean, where I hunt, the deer are used to vehicles, and so the sight of a vehicle doesn't bother them. And even if it idles quietly, I mean, you can even start it and let it idle, and even the smell of car exhaust, I mean, it doesn't really put them off because they're used to vehicles driving around. And so that's a smell that doesn't really scare them off, other than, they may or may not shy away from a vehicle when they get up to it and realize it's there. I've also been sitting in my vehicle with the motor off and I had a little spike buck come up, and if my window would have been down, he would have stuck his head in the passenger window. I mean, he was sniffing the side mirror to see what the heck it even was. So, I mean, they're curious critters, and when you're hunting around where people are, then they're not so skittish and they're not so scared of the smell of humans or vehicles or whatnot. So I mean, I get really blessed, and I've shot more deer in the last 10 years by stepping out and either leaning over the hood of a vehicle, or one of my favorite rests, honestly, is the A-frame of the vehicle with the door open, and I just put my support hand on the A-frame and then cradle the forearm of the rifle right in here, and I can move up and down, but it's still solid. And so that's one of my favorite positions, is just standing beside the vehicle with the door open and shooting from there. So it's great. And I don't know everybody's state laws. You don't even have to get out of the vehicle in Nebraska as long as the vehicle's not moving. You can't shoot from a moving vehicle, which, I mean, honestly, I don't know why they had to pass that as a law or make that a regulation, because is this really a problem?
We can't hunt whales from a car in Tennessee.
Well, I mean, I can understand that. There's been over the years, I think probably way too many whales have been poached in Tennessee from cars. So it makes sense. Pat, what were you going to say?
We have the same problem here, Nighthawk. You still can't hunt whales in Nebraska. It doesn't matter what from. You just can't do it.
It's illegal. I carry a walking stick with me that has a Y cut at the top of it to use as a shooter steady. And it's also really handy as a walking stick too. I see a lot of people get out with a lot of really high-tech stuff, and they never get a deer, and they get frustrated by it. And I watched them. I went out with a buddy one time that I counted during the course of a 2-hour period. He got up and walked around 6 different times. I was like, man, you probably shouldn't hunt. But yeah, I think it doesn't matter what your equipment is. If you're out there, your spirit is right, and you've done your research, you're going to get a deer of some kind.
It also depends on how picky you are.
Yep,
that's always a given. But yeah, I mean, like you said, our grandparents and great grandparents went out in, flannel shirts and brown coveralls or green coveralls, whatever they were. And that's how they hunted their deer. You don't need, especially with rifles. Now, bow hunting, I will agree, that's a whole different animal. But when you're hunting with a firearm, then it doesn't matter so much if you're wearing the latest camo pattern, because I guess this kind of falls into the tips and tricks part of the show tonight. But as far as deer go, they don't rely much on their eyeballs. They don't have very good eyesight unless you're moving or they're right on you. They probably won't see you. They might see that there's something and they can't figure out what it is. And if they're staring at you, especially if you see them licking their nose, they're trying to smell you and figure out what you are from their olfactory senses, not from their vision. Their noses and their ears are amazing. It's their eyes that don't work so well. And so it doesn't matter if you're wearing camo. It doesn't matter if you're wearing orange. If the state you hunt in requires it, Nebraska does. So we've got to have orange on our chest and our back and on our head. And I've never seen a deer shy away because I was wearing orange. I've never seen a deer notice me because of that. I've been winded a lot. They've got my scent and taken off running because they knew something was wrong. And that's a deer's instinct. If they figure out something is wrong, even if they can't figure out what it is, once they're sure something's wrong, they're going to leave.
Bye.
Yep. And if it's a whitetail, that white flag goes up, and if it's a mule deer, then they start bouncing away on all fours. And those are the ways that you know that they were running because they were alarmed. So, but I mean, it doesn't matter what you're wearing. Nearly as much as, like you said, the real key is, can you sit still? Can you become, can you be like Drax from the Guardians of the Galaxy and master the art of standing so still as to become invisible? Because that's really what it comes down to. Now, people can argue all day long. I don't really have a dog in the fight about cover scents and scent killers and things like that. Some people say they're a gimmick. Other people swear by them. Anybody on the panel used any kind of scent killers or cover scents? And what was your experience with them, if you have?
I just don't use anything sweet smelling in the shower the day before. That's really about all I do.
So when you're showering the day before you hunt deer, you're not smearing yourself with molasses? Is that what you're saying?
Basically, not anything that has a good smell to it. No, a little Dove maybe. That's about it.
What were you going to say, Pat?
Yeah, I'll throw a little something in here. Yeah, as far as gear and stuff wise goes, and the scents and stuff like that. If you're gonna get new gear, especially like boots, because that being on the ground and where they're sniffing the ground all the time, if you've got a new pair of boots, break them in and go for walks through grass, get that new scent and everything rubbed off. Or even if you've got a like me, most of the time I don't even have hunting boots. I use my work boots that I've been in the cattle lot and stuff and everything else. So that pretty much covers up my footprints coming in to wherever I'm going. And I wear my brown coveralls, which has the scent of everything but pretty much me on there. And I've always had very good luck doing it that way. And I've had some buddies that come up from Georgia and they lease some of my dad's ground to hunt on, and they've used some scent stuff and they said some stuff works better than others, but they said the best thing you can probably do, and I will agree with this, is when you do laundry, just use unscented laundry soap. Just try to keep the scents and everything down to an absolute minimum. Just that way you're not like what Nighthawk said and that smearing with molasses and everything what John said. Just try not to give them an edge. Just try to give yourself the edge.
Somebody
Now,
pointed
if-
this out. Oh,
if
sorry.
you've ever used any kind of attractants, molasses
sorry.
is a great attractant for deer. So I can't think of a better smell, honestly. If you're gonna douse yourself in anything, use molasses. They're gonna come to that sweet smell and stuff. I'm pretty sure of it. So I don't know. I've not tried it, but I mean, if I had to choose between dumping molasses on my head or a bottle of doe urine, I mean, I know which one I'd rather dump out and get on me. So,
Well, and if you're conservation hunting, you don't want to repel either one of the animals. You don't, if one attracts one type or one repels the other type, you want to give yourself as much of a neutral standpoint as possible. And an old hunter pointed out to me one time that in nature, all animals have BO, right? So
yeah.
This guy wouldn't shower for a week before he went out to the field and didn't clean his clothes or anything else. I won't go that far, but
Yeah, it's one of those things where, I mean, I think about that before I go out when I put deodorant on in the morning, but it doesn't stop me from putting it on. I mean, it's just I'm going to be around other human beings too, and I mean the great thing about rifle hunting is if a deer is close enough to me to get my scent, then I've either not seen the deer or I've already decided that it is not that deer's day to die. So it's not that big of an issue for me, usually.
In our woods, you can hear a deer 200 yards off, but you can only shoot one about 100 yards off because you can't see them. So, for me, I can hear them coming.
Sure. Now, one thing that I do, and I don't know if it's ever helped or not, but I do it anyway, is I've got just a Rubbermaid, or it's probably Sterilite tote that I keep my hunting clothes in, and everything goes in there but my boots. And that's just because it's not that big of a tote. And my boots are normally dirty and muddy before I put them away. But there's little vent holes in the handles, and I've just covered those with some tape. And then I don't make it airtight, but at the same time, when I put the lid on it, I try to tape it down so the lid stays on pretty tight. And then, all my cold weather gear, my vest, my hats, my gloves, all that stuff go in there. And then I've got some of those, I think they're from Hunter Specialties. They're just a little brown container with 3 little cover scent discs in there. And, those things, they've lasted for years in there, and it still smells like dirt in there. And I just do it because I spent like $5 whole on that little container of dirt wafers.
Right.
So, I mean, what's the big deal? I think if I dig them out, there's probably a few chunks of cedar in there too that I've thrown in, because I hunt in country with cedars, and those came from Walmart next to the mothballs. They're just the cedar version of mothballs. And so I threw those in there too, and just kind of get some dirt and tree smells in there with them. I don't know if it helps. I don't know if it hurts, but I kind of like the smell of it when I pull those out of there and put them on. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, I mean, as far as things like that, again, when I'm hunting, it's with a rifle, and so it's not that big of an issue.
Hunting is a psychological activity anyway, so if you feel something gives you an edge, then
Oh,
it
yeah.
does.
Absolutely. That's why some people go out and they'll hunt deer with you know, a 223 or maybe a 22 250, something like that. Other people are like, I'm not going to hunt deer with anything less than a 300 Win Mag or a 338 Win Mag because I only want to have to shoot the deer one time. Well, I mean, again, we've had this argument over the years as gun owners with more than just hunting. I mean, it falls under everything else, the 45 versus 9 argument or what have you. I mean, there's something to be said about shot placement way more than the size of the hole that gets punched through the deer within reason. There's a reason why states don't allow 22 long rifle as legal. I don't think there's any state that allows that for deer anyway. Some states don't allow 22 caliber center fires either. Nebraska does, but we've got power requirements, minimum for rifles, minimum energy requirements. I think at 100 yards is what it is. I'd have to find my guide and check it. My personal low end is 24 caliber, just what I like to see. And the reason is I've shot 223 before one time. It's the only deer I've ever had to chase, and it's the only deer I've ever not recovered. And I said I'll never do it again. Now, granted, part of it was probably poor shot placement because when you're zeroed for 100 and the deer comes out at 15 yards, then it's kind of just at that point the scope wasn't doing me any good, and so I honestly probably should have just waited. I was young, didn't know better at the time, and didn't put a great shot on him to begin with. But still, that deer ran for over 2 miles, almost 2 miles straight line, probably close to 2.5, 3 miles that we chased him. And then we lost him and never did find him. And so it's one of the stories I'm not proud of, but I don't hide from the fact that, as a hunter, sometimes you make mistakes. And that's one of the biggest mistakes I've ever made. So ever since then, it's been, for me personally, 243 or bigger. My favorite's a 270, and that's what I have this year again. But as far as that goes, I mean, part of it too comes down to the size of the deer. From what I understand, some of those East Coast deer and a lot of the Texas deer, a 223 would be plenty big enough for some of those dog-sized animals that pass for deer down there. Other areas, you go out to western Nebraska and catch one of those big old 250-pound muleys, you're going to want a little more gun to put an animal that size down. So that's again, I mean, you kind of have to know not only what you're hunting but where you're hunting when it comes to deer, as far as the sizes go and things like that. So Fluffy says no 223 in Michigan for deer. Now, the way I understand it from what Squib has said, Michigan's got a couple different regions. I think there's 3 different regions. Fluffy and Blitz can set me straight on that. But I know some of the areas in Michigan you can hunt with bottleneck cartridges. Others require just straight wall cartridges. And Nebraska doesn't have any restrictions there. Some states don't allow centerfire rifle at all. You have to be you have to hunt with a shotgun. I know, let's see, I've got friends from Baltimore that said Maryland is that way. I know Iowa's that way. It's either shotgun or it's straight wall in Iowa. I can't remember which, but it's no 30-06 or 270 or anything like that. Ooh, Clint's got the rifleman's rifle, a pre-64 Model 70.
Ooh.
That's on my bucket list too. I don't know if I'll ever own one, just because I'm not a fan of the wing safety, but just to shoot one once to see what it's all about. I would love to get a chance on a real Model 70 Winchester. That'd be cool. What else we're talking out there? New York Outcast says, just look for the deer with a limp and a bandana. The city deer will try and rob you. They'll come to you, which makes some sense. They also, I think the city deer are better armed, from what I understand, because they've got access to, some of those assault weapons and things like that. So you got to watch those city deer. Let's see. Ozzy says Illinois is either shotgun or muzzle loader. Clint says that Model 70, the bolt is like butter dripping off a hot biscuit. I'm not sure what that means. I hope that it's just soft and smooth. And you really shouldn't put butter on your rifle. I'm just saying. James Allen says Indiana. I could put these up on the screen, can't I? Indiana is weird. You have to use straight walled or shotgun on public land, but you can use 30 calibers on private land, which I suppose that makes sense in the notion that on public land there's going to be a lot higher concentration of people, and the whole point of requiring something like that is you don't want that bullet, if you miss the deer, you don't want that bullet going on and hitting something that you can't afford to replace or can't be replaced. So incidentally, a couple weeks ago I was at a range down by Tekamah, Nebraska, one of 88 Tactical's facilities, and the range master said something that that's what he said, and I'd never heard it said that way before, and I think it's one of the smartest things I've ever heard when it comes to talking about gun safety. He said, went through the basic rules. He said, never point the firearm at something that you can't afford to replace.
Oh yeah.
And I thought, those are great words right there.
Yeah.
Normally we hear don't point it at something you're not willing to shoot or you don't want to destroy or whatever like that, but never point it at something that you can't afford to replace. I mean, that's just perfect. I like that. I like that wording. That was cool. Yeah, Clint says that it's just super smooth. I'm sure it is. But that's the difference between what was at the time the best, if not the best rifle in the world, then considered by many to be the best rifle in the world, probably considered by most to be the best rifle produced by an American company. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that would make some sense. So that's cool. So let's go around the horn a little bit. And well, first of all, before we do that, I understand that Defense Dad has been fairly quiet tonight just because these are topics that you don't have experience with. Do you have any questions at this point, Defense Dad? Says everybody, just so you know, I'm trying to get Defense Dad to come and join me hunting, and it's not going to happen this year, but maybe one of these years. And if we shame him enough, that might make it happen sooner than later. So help me shame him into coming and hunting with me. But anyway, do you have any questions at this point, sir?
Well, not. I guess the one question I always had, you kind of covered it. Like, to me, not growing up hunting, I hear all the people, wearing all the camo and wearing all the scent masking and, blind and everything. And to me, I'm thinking, I hear the stories of my grandpa. They grew up during the Depression. They had to hunt for food, and they didn't do any of that. Mm-hmm. So to me, it almost, and outside in, to me, it almost seems like cheating.
Well, now a lot of that, the scent control and the camo and things like that, again, those are things that if you're hunting with a bow, that is a whole different ballgame, because I mean, realistically, yes, I know there are people that can successfully take a deer at 50 or 60 yards with their bow. But realistically, for the average bow hunter, I think 40 yards is probably pushing it. You want to get that deer within 40 yards of you. So being able to blend in better, and it's not just the deer. When you're bow hunting, you don't want any of the animals busting you, because
I didn't know you're talking bow hunting. I'm talking when you're taking a deer from a hunt.
So when you're hunting with a rifle, totally different scenario, because deer see black and white. They don't see color. So breaking up the outline is really all that matters. You can do that with blaze camo and still be legal for rifle hunting. You can do it without the camo. You can just do it with solid blaze like I do. I mean, yeah, it doesn't really matter, because again, they're not going to get that close, or probably not going to get that close. So yeah, that's if you're thinking about getting into deer hunting and you want to start off with a rifle to do it, then you don't have to go out and spend hundreds of dollars on clothing. Here's what matters: layers. Because I don't know what the end of the deer hunting week is going to be for me as far as weather goes. In Nebraska, deer season for rifles opens up on this Saturday, runs all week long, Saturday and Sunday, and then it's over. So it's a 9-day season. And during that time this year and for the last several years, it's gotten up to 50 or 60 during the daytime. So I'm down to, just a hoodie or just a t-shirt in the middle of the afternoon. In the mornings before the sun comes up, it's 30, 35 degrees. It's pretty chilly. And so having layers that you can kind of shed throughout the day, that makes a huge difference. Being warm or staying warm is the number one thing that I would recommend to new deer hunters, or if you've got somebody that you're trying to take with you. The taking my nephews this year is great, but their parents are asking, what do we even need to pack for them? I'm like, pack layers. If the fingers and the toes get cold, then the hunt is over. I don't care how young or how old you are. If it's not comfortable to sit there, and just think if you're sitting out at a football game or something like that. I mean, if you sit there and you can't feel your toes, or you've got snot running out of your nose, things like that, because you're not dressed warm enough, then you're not going to be comfortable. And if you're not comfortable, you're not going to sit still. And if you're not sitting still, then you're not going to be as successful. So most of it comes with just creature comforts. Take what you need. If you're sitting out in the open where all your movements are visible, then you've got to work a lot harder on sitting still. If you've got a blind like I do, or you're even inside a vehicle for most of it, then you can get away with a little bit more movement. You can get away with, eating some snacks and maybe crinkling that cellophane wrapper or something like that, things like that. So just make sure that you've got the right clothing as far as, if you're going to spend money on something and get better equipment, boots are number one, I think. Because, and it's okay I shouldn't say it's okay. You might end up coming up with more than one pair. I've got two. I've got a pair that I think have 600 gram thinsulate, and then I've got a pair with 2,400 gram thinsulate, and they kind of feel like when I'm walking around, they're so thick and so heavy. I mean, I feel like Gene Simmons a little bit, because I literally am about 2 inches taller with those on. But I tell you what, my feet don't get cold in them. That's for sure. But that's the thing is, if it's warmer, then you don't want that big, heavy boot. You don't want, 4 or 5 layers of clothing on, but you want to be able to shed that throughout the day and maybe swap your boots out. Yeah, Pat made a great point. If you've got new boots, break them in, take them out and wear them around and get that new worn off. Plus, I mean, depending on the boot, brand new shoes aren't for everybody. They're not comfortable for everybody, and they might need some time just to get broken in a little bit. Especially if you're going to do a lot of walking around or moving with your hunting, depending on the territory, the country that you're hunting in. If it's mountains, then you're going to want to spend a lot more on your boots, because it's not just the cold factor, but it's the ankle support then. And when you're climbing hills and things like that, you got to make sure that you don't sprain an ankle, all that kind of stuff. So that's what makes the biggest difference there. But that's the biggest thing that I can tell anybody as far as, getting into it. Just make sure that you've got warm stuff, but then at the same time, maybe not a coat that's really noisy when it's cold. I mean, something that's still fairly quiet and you can move around in it without making a lot of noise. So keep that in mind as you're picking your stuff out. It doesn't have to be camo, but typically the stuff that fits that description is, because it's made for hunting. And so it's okay if my stuff's camo. I didn't buy it because I need it to be camouflaged. I bought it because I wanted a 4-in-1. Is it a 4? It's either a 3-in-1 or a 4-in-1 jacket that has a liner I can take out, and I can, use, like I said, use the layers as needed. It's waterproof, it's windproof. those are things that matter to me. You know, the camo didn't, but you know, there it is. It's there. So, as far as just tips for getting somebody new into, not how to do it, but if you've got somebody going for the first time, or maybe somebody's listening to this thinking about going for the first time, Pat, what would you give for advice for somebody that's never done it before? Like, what advice would you give Defense Dad as a newbie? He's never been hunting.
Well, I'd just say dress appropriately. Make sure whether it's going to be hot or cold, just like what you hit on there. And I'll throw in one little quick tip. Either go online or go to a convenience store and get hand warmers and feet warmers. Those things are lifesavers when you're just sitting there. And as far as taking along somebody new, just prepare them for what's in store. And like, if either you're going to be like on a walking stock or a ground blind, or if you're going to have a double tree stand going, just let them know far enough in advance what to expect, whether you're going to be doing a lot of walking or sitting, and just really make sure that they understand what they're getting themselves into, because once you lay it out and it still sounds like they want to go, then they probably want to go. But if you fill them in and then it's like, man, they kind of hem and haw about it, then it's like, well, it's probably not for you then. But just make sure you just lay it out there and they know exactly what they're getting themselves into.
Absolutely. Very, very good advice. Nighthawk, what would you say?
I invite them over for a barbecue, and if they can't sit quietly while we drink beer and enjoy the evening, then I don't invite them hunting at all with me, because I'm telling you, my technique is literally to walk out in the woods in a place where my cameras have told me there's something out there to shoot at, there's a shooter, and sit down and not move for 2 hours. And I know that there's a lot of more experienced hunters than me that will knock that, but it works, because there's no reason for the deer to be worried about me until it's too late.
Right. Nope. Exactly. Another thing that I would say too, if you've got somebody that wants to go try it and wants to go with you and you're cool with taking them, is maybe they think they're prepared until they get there, and you need to be prepared for them not being prepared.
To be prepared. Yes.
So if you're of the mind or of the temperament that, if you get out there and then they're not having a good time and they're ready to pack it in, and it depends on, your relationship, if it's a significant other or, just a buddy from across the street or whatever, that maybe make a little bit difference too. But at the same time, if you're still wanting them to just, suck it up and sit there and sit quiet and be miserable so that you can finish your hunt, then you are definitely going to turn them off to ever going hunting again. So keep that in mind too. Is making them miserable worth it for you to still be able to stay out there and hunt longer? Or if you understand this ahead of time and you still are willing to take them, you got to be prepared, just like taking a small child, that you're probably not going to be out there as long as you would normally be, or that you would want to be. Maybe you go out before sunup and then you don't come back in until sundown typically. But if you've got somebody else with you that's never been and doesn't really know what to expect and thinks they're prepared, then finds out they're not, that's just going to be game over. I mean, if you do anything else besides take them back, then you're going to wish you had anyway. So you might as well do it.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people will stay out longer than I will. And to be honest with you, I'm probably my willingness to sit still has more to do with that. I know there's a fixed duration to that. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to spend all day waiting for a deer. If my recon job was good, there should be one there within a couple of hours. If it wasn't, then I need to back out and figure out what I did wrong and start again.
No, that's true. New York Outcast has a great point. New people never have their crap together for long days in the cold, even on a job. It doesn't just apply to hunting. So yeah. And here's the thing too. Somebody who's new getting into it, I mean, if you don't have any of this cold weather gear already bought, then you're looking at spending some bucks. You know, getting into hunting, I don't care if it's with a rifle or a bow or a muzzle loader, whatever it is. If you don't have any of the gear and any of the clothing, then this is not a cheap thing to get into. We do it because overall, you know, we feel it's worth it, but I think I can speak for everybody on the panel, and it doesn't just apply to hunting. It's like anything else. You don't get your whole kit all at once. You piece things together over the years. And Defense Dad, I know that you can even appreciate that kind of sentiment. I mean, it's like having a garage. You know, you didn't buy all your tools all at once. You bought them as you needed them or pieced them together over the years. And it's the same thing with deer hunting equipment or anything else in the shooting world. Everything in my range bag didn't come in. You know, I didn't put everything in there all the same day or go buy it all the same day.
Well, so a lot of what you guys are saying, I mean, I was big into fishing when I was a kid and growing up. So, and ice fishing, so like the layers and the dress, I get all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
I don't have any of it anymore. So yeah, it applies to a lot of things. Like I'm used to being out in the cold, just doing things growing up in Nebraska. So yeah, I mean that all makes a lot of sense.
Heck yeah.
I think sometimes people confuse being out in the cold with it being the same thing to be out in the cold and be still, because being out in the cold and not moving as opposed to being out in the cold and working is a whole different ball of wax.
Well, sure. I'm talking about like the layers and all the, you know, the right boots and that kind of stuff.
And I'm not an ice fisherman, so it didn't occur to me to say that, but anybody that's been ice fishing gets it. Sitting still in the cold, especially the insulated boots. I mean, sitting there with your feet on a slab of ice all day, if you don't have insulated boots, then you're going to wish you did.
Well, when I went, we didn't have any sort of shelter. We just sat there next to a hole in the ice.
Well, there you go. Even better.
GW has a good point.
in the chat. Yeah, the George Washington. We're going to put this on the screen, but we've got another panelist to add in here. So we're going to welcome ND Hunter or North Dakota Hunter 7. I'm not sure which it is. So welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us. Real quick here, I'm just going to let you start off on this one. Let's talk about PT for dragging a deer out of a mountain valley. With your experience, have you had that issue where you've had to drag a deer a long ways uphill?
Well, here in North Dakota, we usually quarter them out.
Okay.
And personally, that's the best thing in my opinion, depending on how far your drag is. But I like to do the gutless method, and I feel like that's easier than hanging the deer. And I get the tenderloins out too, with the back straps and all that, the quarters. And personally, I feel like that's the best option from that I've experienced, anyways. But
alrighty, yep, and that's the field dressing technique is one we didn't even really touch on yet tonight, and we could probably go 3 more hours if we touch on everything that there is. So no, that's cool. Anybody else on the panel had those nightmare experiences where you had to drag a deer a long ways or uphill both ways or anything like that?
I'm fortunate enough that there's usually a trail pretty close to where I end up going in. And I've usually picked a natural game path. So a lot of times those will cross those back roads and things of that nature. So it might be 20 yards or something.
Oh, that's kind of handy. Pat, what were you going to say?
Yeah, actually, I've had kind of 2 nightmare ones, and both of them weren't even my deer. I've had some hunters, friends of mine, try to get a deer, and they run and they wind up in the middle of the Republican River on an island somewhere, and having to drag them either out of there or a swamp area is probably about the worst one I can think of, trying to drag it out of a knee-deep swamp.
Yeah, I've seen some things. One of the fields where I hunt up on my dad's, there's a most of it is really high above the river, but the river is just over the bank. But there's a spot where it's kind of all caved and all the water runs that direction, so it's kind of cut a gully, and so the deer run up and down through there all the time. And there's usually either alfalfa or corn in that field, and then they can get down to the water right there. And when my family used to have a hunting lodge and I was guiding hunters, yeah, we had one that shot the deer and then it ran down, and it waited till it got halfway across the river. And the Kippaha River, mind you, isn't very big. You can throw a rock from one bank to the other, and it's typically somewhere between ankle and shin deep, except for wherever the channel runs. That channel can be up to waist deep, on a normal year. And of course, she was on the other side of where the channel was. And now I didn't have any other boots. I only had the pair that I was wearing. So I knew the water was going to be over my boots. I knew I wasn't going to have dry boots to go back out later that night, and I had to guide. And so luckily one of the other guys that lived close had, he went into the water, and we got the rope on that deer, and we had about 6 people pulling that deer up the bank to get it recovered. So yeah, I've been in on one of those river deals. It's not fun. And of course, the water was flowing, but there was ice on both sides too, and snow on the ground. So it wasn't like it was a 60-degree day. This was about a 20-degree day. So yeah, good times.
Yeah, it's not much fun when it gets to be about like that. So
yeah, exactly. Now, New York's got a great suggestion. Practice by pulling a drunk buddy on a sled. Now, here's the thing. I don't know about a drunk buddy, but once your buddy passes out and they're just dead weight, then yeah, practice by pulling them around on a sled, because that's more realistic, I think, than somebody trying to sit upright on a sled that's drunk. So
they're not that big out here, and my time as a combat medic, I can firearm and carry anything that's equal to my body weight pretty easily. So
sure.
Yeah, 160, 180 pound deer is not bad.
Nope, it just kind of depends. Again, too, it makes a difference on how messy you're willing to get. Because I mean, even if you haven't field dressed is the nice term. We always say just gut the but deer. Even if you haven't taken the insides and put them on the outside of the deer yet, there's still going to be at least an entry wound, if not an entry and an exit wound, that's leaking some blood out. So I mean, you're going to get messy, and if you fireman carry that thing, then it's going to get all over you. That's just the way it works. There's no way around it. It's going to happen. So.
Yep, I've been bled on before.
Yeah, as a medic, I'm sure you have. So, yep, exactly. All right, so North Dakota hunter, what part of North Dakota are you in?
I'm on the western side of North Dakota by Dickinson. I generally hunt around the Medora area. If you've ever heard of that, the Badlands, the western region of the Badlands. So,
okay, sure.
I'm used to hunting public land down here, and me and my buddy, I've been busy with football, and I had our last game this week, and we bought Sandhill permits. So we're headed down to Nebraska Friday. I'll do a little scouting, and then we'll hunt public land down there Saturday. So we're excited.
Cool. What town are you going to be close to in the Sandhill region?
Valentine.
Okay. And yep, you'll be about 70. Well, when you're in Valentine, you'll be about 70 miles from where I'll be.
Okay. Yeah. Expecting to be pretty busy, but we're gonna work for him. So
that's cool. Oh, well, best of luck to you. Have you been to Nebraska before?
I have not. No.
I mean, it's different, but it's not going to be a ton different than what you're used to, really. I mean, especially when you get out into that area, the hills are different because there's grass on them. It's not like Badlands, but it's a bunch of sand dunes with grass covering them. It's really beautiful country. If anybody's got a chance to go to the Sandhills that hasn't been there, you need to go check it out. It's pretty neat. We've got a friend here that sometimes it's been a long time since we've had him in the panel now, but the 402 Outdoorsman actually lives in Jamestown now. So
Okay.
he's a Nebraskan, but he's a North Dakota hunter now too.
Okay.
Well, mostly fisherman. I know he gets out and hunts some, but he spends a lot of time fishing too. So
Okay.
you have to go check out the 402 Outdoorsman if you haven't yet on the YouTube and on the Facebook. He's probably other places. Well, glad to have you along. So, did you find the link on the YouTube side or over on the Facebook page?
On the Facebook page, I actually joined that Nebraska hunting Facebook page, and somebody shared this link into there. So I tuned in a little bit, then I said I'd join the show.
Cool. Working on getting if I can get a few more sponsors for the live show here, then we're going to go back to streaming live on Facebook at the same time we do this on YouTube.
Okay.
So
Okay. That'd be cool.
It's gonna be kind of cool. I should throw that feeler out there. If anybody wants to be a sponsor, I need 4 people, and I've got 2 locked down and a maybe. I need at least one more sponsor. $60 is what it's going to cost you. And I want somebody that actually knows what we do here, knows that sometimes I run my mouth and sometimes my opinions aren't the popular ones. But what your $60 will get you is a year's worth of sponsorship. Up here in the top right corner on the screen where it says powered by StreamYard. When I and what I need is just enough money to cover the cost of the pro version of this program. So the StreamYard duck goes away. Your logo goes there for the entire chat every 4th week. And then at the top of the show and at the bottom of the show, we'll read a 20 or 30-second ad for you. So if anybody hears this and wants to help sponsor this show and get us on Facebook and YouTube at the same time, and get some advertising out of the deal, $60 is what it's going to cost you. So send me a message on Facebook or email me sandhillsshooter@gmail.com and we'll talk about that. All right. So are you when you're hunting at home, I know what you're going to find in the Sandhill region of Nebraska is going to be mostly mule deer. So do you mostly hunt muleys at home, North Dakota, or are you muleys and whitetail, or what do you have back that way?
Mostly whitetails. There are some muleys, mostly muleys, but there are some whitetails, but the whitetails are pretty hard to find in the Badlands. But
okay,
they're pretty much like ghosts out there. But if you find them, they're usually pretty big. But I generally like hunting muleys more. But if I run into a whitetail, I wouldn't hesitate to shoot it in Nebraska. But
absolutely,
that's for sure.
Well, and that's kind of how I'm in the next unit east along the South Dakota border there, the Kippaha unit. And if it's a muley buck, we can shoot it there. We can't shoot muley doe in the unit that I hunt. Whitetail can be either sex, but if it's a mule deer, it has to have antlers. So, or at least one antler, at least 6 inches long is the requirement in Nebraska.
Okay.
But yeah, where you go, you can kind of hunt whatever, because there's the difference is there aren't as many mule deer where I go. That's the reason behind it. So,
well, another reason why we got the Nebraska tags is because the unit that I hunt here in North Dakota, it takes about 5 to 6 years to draw a mule deer buck tag for the rifle. So that's why we kind of drew the Nebraska tag.
Gotcha.
Permit.
Well, and I was just talking to somebody earlier today that you know the non-resident permit fee here in Nebraska, it's really not that expensive. It's really not cost prohibitive. If you typically go out of state to hunt anyway, then Nebraska is one of the better, from what I've been told, one of the better priced permits. So
yeah, definitely. That's kind of what leaned us towards Nebraska.
Cool. Well, yeah, you get to come and hang out and be in some new country. And
yeah,
like I said, best of luck to you. Hope everything works out and you guys stay safe and stay warm. And well, actually, it's gonna be too warm. Hope you stay cool.
Yeah, I know.
That's just it. And I typically I like to hang a deer. I like to let it hang for about a week if it's cold enough, but it's not going to be cold enough where it doesn't even get down to freezing at night. It's definitely not going to be such a thing that I can let a deer hang that long. So we'll have to get them dealt with right away if we get them down. But yeah, that's just me. I like doing a lot of things. Okay, one last question I have, and I'm just going to kind of let everybody, hopefully we don't walk on each other, but anybody that wants to pipe in, go ahead and do it. when you get your deer down, whether you do the gutless method or you open them up and take out the entrails or whatever you do there, tarsal glands, do you leave them or do you get rid of those first?
I do no processing. I am something like 10 minutes away.
Okay.
I hand my processor train wrecks of deer, and he is a master. He's
Nice.
worth every dime. I don't clear the butt or anything.
So you just take the whole deer with everything in it right to the guy.
You got it. He's
Gotcha.
a butcher. He cleans just about everybody's deers in this area,
Mhm.
and as long as you don't hand him a train wreck or expect to get 100 pounds of meat out of a 25-pound deer, then he'll treat you good.
There you go. All right, Pat. When you put a deer down, tarsal glands, do you cut them off or let them be?
I get rid of them. I just go ahead and clean. I usually grab the deer up, go to a different site, and get it out of where I'm hunting. And I've got a couple little places where I can put that for coyotes.
Nice.
I'll put it that way.
Nice.
And go ahead and dispose and just field dress it right there and get rid of the glands right there. And then, hang it up.
There you go. All righty. And then North Dakota, what do you do with the tarsal glands? Do you cut those off or do you leave them?
If I'm hanging deer, I'm definitely cutting them off.
Okay.
Yeah, but if I'm doing a gutless, I'll probably leave them there. So
Just because you're going to leave that part of the leg there anyway, aren't you?
Yep, exactly.
Gotcha. Well, that makes sense too. Yeah, and I always take them off. That's how I was taught when I was young. So first thing I do before I even open up the deer is get those off of there. And I think that, let me know, panelists, or even out there in the chat, if you don't know what the tarsal glands are, it's halfway down the hind leg where the scent glands are, and the bucks. And I don't know if the doe do as well, but I know the bucks, when they come up to a scrape, they'll pee down their leg, and then the urine picks up their scent on that tarsal gland, and then runs on down. A lot of people that don't, they say they don't like deer because of that gamey taste. Do you guys think that partly it's because people don't clean them right? They're not removing those scent glands. They're not maybe taking all the entrails out the right way, and the meat gets affected by some of that.
That's a big yes. They also don't understand how to soak their meat, but I guess it depends on how long you're hanging it. And I don't hang anything, right? So tarsal glands aren't an issue for me. But I'm certain that happens a lot. I've walked by and seen people hanging deer in 70-degree weather that still had the tarsal glands on it and everything. And I'm like,
yeah, that's yummy. And I've seen a lot of people who, like I said, over the years with my family having a hunting lodge and guide service, I've seen a little bit of everything. I've seen people that have hunted for 40 years, and I've seen people that brought their kid for the first time. I've seen people that, leave the tarsal glands. Actually, I see that a lot more than cut them off. And I don't know if it's just something that not everybody gets taught that, or maybe it doesn't really make a difference. I don't know. I do know that when it comes to the taste of the meat, the biggest factor that I've ever run into is the deer's diet. And if you're hunting in a place where they don't have much to eat besides pine cones, or sage or something like that, then the meat's definitely going to have kind of that sagey flavor to it, versus if you're hunting in an area where the deer are eating corn out of a cornfield or off my dad's corn pile, then it's just like corn-fed beef. That corn-fed deer is going to be a whole lot different flavor. The only thing that I don't understand is, people that eat venison but then complain about the gamey flavor to it. Why are you eating venison if you don't like the gamey flavor? That's why I like it. It's the fact that it's not beef. That's why I like the venison. I love beef, don't get me wrong. And I grew up on a place that produces steaks. That's what my dad does for a living, is grows steaks on the hoof. So I love beef, but at the same time, I love venison because it's different. It's not beef. It's not pork. It's its own thing. It's got its own flavor. It's wild game. If it doesn't taste gamey, then there's probably something a little bit wrong with it. So the people that want to marinate that out or smoke it out or whatever, I've never understood that concept myself. So
I'll throw this out there just real quick. If you're looking for better meat as far as shooting a deer, just go with a doe. Just skip the buck altogether, and if all you're doing is meat,
Yep.
definitely doe is just the way to go because it is less gamey. It doesn't have quite the amount of bite and stuff to it. So if you're looking to fill a freezer, go with a good sized doe.
that's right. And if you're again, if you're hunting for meat and you shoot a buck, then keep in mind that old, mature 6-year-old buck is going to have a lot different taste than a nice 3-year-old buck is. So that definitely makes a difference too. All right.
Here.
Well, we've got one more new addition. We're about to wrap things up, guys, but we've got Hunter Mosier in here. And so Mosier or Moser, which is it?
Moser.
Moser. I know people with that name that I've heard both pronunciations. So
Oh, really?
So is your first name really Hunter, or is that just a cool
Yep.
screen name?
Yep, that's my first name.
It's just cool. It's a great night to have this chat then with you on it. So where are you reporting in from then?
North Dakota.
Another North Dakotan.
Yep.
Tell you what, we're almost even. We've got 3 Nebraskans, 2 North Dakotans. We get one more North Dakotan in here, and I'm not sure we're going to be overtaken. So what part of North Dakota do you hail from then?
I'm out from Dickinson.
So okay. Isn't that where North Dakota Hunter is? Are you guys, is this the same person?
No,
Do you know each other?
we do know each other.
Okay.
Yes, we do know each other.
Are you both the ones that are going to the Valentine area to hunt?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Awesome. All right. When you said that, I started putting 2 and 2 together. And I'm not the smartest person in the world, but you got to get up pretty early in the afternoon to get that past me. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Cool. All righty. So real quick here before we wrap up, we've got one thing I need to go around the horn and just kind of cover because we haven't really talked about this yet. So for the most part, everybody in here that's hunting deer is doing it with a rifle. And so when it comes to your choice for caliber and your choice for rifle, I'm just going to go around the horn here and see what everybody likes to shoot. But I want to know why. We don't have to take a long time on this, but I want to know why you settle on that particular gun and that particular caliber, what it is that you like about it. Because again, the reason I say this, there might be somebody out there listening who isn't really sure what to get. And when I'm trying to pick something out and I want reviews, I don't want a spec sheet. I can look that up myself. I want to know your honest opinions. And even though what works for you might not work for me, I want to know why it did or didn't work for you. And so we'll just start with you, Hunter. What is your go-to rifle and caliber?
I usually hunt with a 243. But this Nebraska hunt, I will be hunting with a 30-06, which I feel that I like hunting with the 30-06 because I feel that it's more of a hard shooting gun. It's like, I feel like it hits a lot harder than the regular 243 that I like to use.
Mm-hmm.
It's not much of a long range rifle, the 30-06, but I do like with the bigger bullet because I shoot 168 grain, and so I do like to get that bigger bullet in there and make sure that I get a good hard shot on a deer.
Yep. Nope, that makes some sense. Yeah, Fluffy is right. Is somebody chewing gum or eating some chips or something? I'm getting some noise. So if everybody wants to mute your mic when you're not talking, we'll cut down on the background noise there. And just click that microphone button, and there we go, everybody. And Hunter, that actually makes a lot of sense to me. It's one of the same reasons why I shoot 270 over 243.
Okay.
And I've shot more deer with 243 than anything, to be honest with you. So
Yep.
it's a great caliber. But the difference is when you get out past that 250 yard range, then even if it's not necessarily flatter shooting, because I don't think 30-06 is going to shoot flatter than 243, but when you get to that 350 yard away deer, you're going to have a lot more energy impacting that deer, and it makes, you add a little distance to what the effective range is when you go up to a 27 or 30 caliber like that. So you've made a great choice in my mind.
Yeah, that's what I felt.
The only reason that I picked 270 over 30-06 is just because for the roughly the same amount of recoil, just a little bit maybe less recoil. I've got a faster, flatter shooting bullet than a 06. So that's just me. It's if what you have is 30-06, it's great. I think that between 30-06 and 30-30, that's probably accounts for more deer than any other 2 calibers in the country.
Oh, I bet. Yep.
So, nope, great choice. All right, we'll move over to North Dakota Hunter. What is your rifle and caliber and why?
I'll be shooting a Seekins Precision 28 Nosler this trip. And just because if there's really one out there I can reach out to, I have it dialed into, I'm comfortable up to 950 with it. Evidently, you probably won't have to shoot that far for this trip, but 162 grain bullet shooting up to 3250 feet per second is. Feel like if I hit a deer, it's throwing down no matter where I hit it. So,
yep, that sounds really cool too. And you've got some time and some effort and maybe a little bit of money wrapped up into a Seekins. That's nice.
Yeah, actually, my dad's rifle. I bought the scope on it, so he's letting me take it for on the trip. So.
Nice. Very cool. Yeah. Alrighty. Yeah, that's the thing about that Sandhills country is you might be shooting a distance of, 30 or 40 yards. You might be stretching that thing out to 400. You just never know what's going to happen. And one of the things about trying to, hunt Nebraska is, you've got to make sure that you've got enough gun to make those longer shots. Or the difference is if you've got that 243, then know what you can do and know what you can't do with it. And plan accordingly too. So,
yeah, exactly.
Cool. All right, let's move over to Pat. What's your go-to rifle and caliber, sir?
I am running my old Mosin converted into a Sporterizer and a 7.62 by 54R, and I am running 180 grain boat tail spare point. So it's done plenty good for me, and I can run a wide enough range of bullets on it. I can either go shoot coyotes with it out of 140 grain bullet, or I can crank that sucker all the way up to 203 grain if I really want to put something down just absolutely graveyard dead.
There you go. And yeah, anybody that's shooting a Mosin, I mean, if your shoulder's not that important to you, then have at it. So
it does have a muzzle brake on it, and it does help out a lot because it is the short-barreled version.
Oh wow!
And there's a reason they call it the Russian fire stick.
I can about imagine. So if you shoot the deer too close, then not only did you put a bullet through it, but you've already got it roasted. Is that what you are saying there?
Yeah, if it's within 20 yards, you could probably roast just about all the hair off of it if you really wanted to.
That's awesome. All right. Nighthawk, we will circle around to you. What is your go-to rifle and cartridge and why?
First of all, I'm really pleased to hear a Mosin out there collecting deer. I run a Lee & Field jungle carbine, of course, 303 British. I'm running a 180 round nose. It's about probably 2,500 feet per second with IMR 4895 pushing it. So for the deer we have here, it's way more cartridge than I need, but it also doubles really well as a pig gun. The nice thing about the infield is you get real rapid follow-up shots with roughly 30-06 power.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's a smooth cycling rifle. Yeah, they're not 180s, they're 150s, but I've got some of these right here next to my elbow.
Those will do it.
I've toyed with taking that sporterized Enfield up there with me this week, but I don't know that I'm going to, just because I don't want to lug a whole bunch of guns around. So I probably won't. I'm already going to have two, because my 243 is currently on loan for one of the nephews to be practicing with. The 14-year-old liked that. The 12-year-old actually liked his dad's Ruger American 30-06, and so the 12-year-old shooting an 06. And he's put the time in on the bench with it. They both have. So I mean, they with those respective rifles. So they seem, from what I've heard, they're doing pretty well. Of course, all bets are off when you've got a real animal, especially with nice antlers in your scope. And let me tell you, that's something that all the new people experience, is that buck fever. And let me tell you, after almost 30 years of putting bucks in my crosshairs, it really doesn't change. You just learn how to deal with it.
Yeah, you learn to breathe it out right before you take the shot.
Yep. Sometimes I have to tell myself to calm down, and I'll break my completely break my shooting form there and take a breath, and then go back onto the gun and look again. But yeah, sometimes even I still get caught up in it. So, but it's worth it to make that good shot. So, all right. Well, we are going to wrap things up. So, we will let everybody have just a few final words, final thoughts. Those of you that came in here late, if you have anything you want to add, then you'll have a time to do that. So we'll just go back around the horn the other way. So Nighthawk, any final thoughts that you want to share? And then where can people find you if they want to look for you?
Hey, conservation is all of our jobs. We like not having wolves. We like not having large cats. So if you're not a hunter and you want to learn how to contribute, I invite you to get on some of the websites and look at conservation. And even if it's never a deer, even if it's just going out and hunting pig, that's definitely something we need to happen right now. So I think that you'll find most hunting organizations are perfectly willing to help you get out on your first hunt. And there's not a hunter on earth that can't tell you how to mess it up. And you can just subtract their bad experiences from good experiences and know how to be successful. Of course, you can find me on youtube.com right here, Nighthawk Medic Shoots, and full30.com and Facebook. Thanks for having me, John. I appreciate it.
You bet. Thanks for coming and hanging out with us. All right, Defense Dad, anything that you want to add, questions or comments or the like, and then where can people find you?
No, just thanks for having me. I'm still just on YouTube under Defense Dad, and put out a new video tonight before the show. If you don't feel like checking it out, it was kind of a fun one, but that's it.
Cool. Yeah, I need to one of my you're a Blue Wrench. If you haven't, put that link out there in the chat for us, would you? So that everybody can go find that. I haven't watched it yet because I was doing some stuff. I had to go clear out the driveway and stuff from the snow that fell today. And then after I ate supper, I still haven't taken time to watch your stuff, but I'm going to yet tonight, just so you know.
It's basically why I'm right and Midnight's wrong.
Oh, well, in that case, then I don't have to watch it to know that you're right and Midnight's wrong. Is he even here tonight? I haven't seen him out there.
He was, yeah.
He was? Okay. Oh, there he is out there. Cool. All right. I haven't really been watching the chat like I need to, I guess. So, all right. Well, thank you for joining us, and hopefully you've maybe heard enough that next year we can, like I said, we can shame you into joining us. So there's that link out there in the YouTube chat. So make sure you click on that link when we're done here and go find out why Defense Dad is right, and Other Travis, also known as Pancake Boy, also known as Midnight Range TM, is wrong. But I say it's just because it's him. Love you, Other Travis. All right. So, Pat, any final thoughts from you? And then if people want to get a hold of you, where can they find you?
I'm on YouTube, and hopefully either this weekend, next weekend, maybe I will have a little hunting video put together to put up on the old YouTube. And yeah, just wanted to thank our fellow hunters and brethren from North Dakota for coming on the show tonight and showing up and talking about their experiences and stuff. And wanted to give kudos to Nighthawk Medic for running the old 303 Brit out there and taking down deer with that. Thank God I'm not the only guy out there shooting an antique.
I've got nice new hunting rifles. I still like the old rifle.
Yeah, there's something about the antiques. I like shooting them for some reason. But yeah, that's all from me.
Well, thank you for joining us. A pleasure as always. All right, we're going to move over to our two new guests. And I tell you what, if you want to send me an email with your email addresses, fellas, and if you want to join us in the future, then we can get you some links down the road here. Just email me at sandhillsshooter@gmail.com or hit me on Facebook with a message over there. So we'll go to North Dakota Hunter. Any final thoughts from you? And then where can people find you if they want to
I just want to
later?
thank you guys. I just want to thank you guys for having me on the chat tonight.
Yeah, man.
And be safe this season and good luck. And you guys can find me.
Likewise.
Anybody needs help pulling a deer out or anything like that, don't hesitate to give me a shout. 701-590-0075.
There you go. All right, North Dakota Hunter. There's his phone number. I don't know if he's single, but I've heard he's a Pisces. He likes long walks on the beach, pina coladas, and getting caught in the rain. I made that up. I'm sorry. But thanks for jumping in here and joining us and adding your thoughts to everything. So we'll move over to you, Hunter. What final thoughts do you want to throw out there? And then if people are looking for you, where can they find you?
Same with me. I mean, thank you for having me on the little chat here. I mean, I'll be with ND Hunter in Nebraska from the Sandhills. So, I mean, if you guys need any help or whatever, we're always there and we'll help you guys out. But pretty much just thank you for the letting me on here. And it was pretty nice seeing that other people use older rifles, and that's pretty cool, I thought. But yeah, and seeing what you guys are shooting, I thought that was pretty cool too. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it. And good luck, everybody, this season. And yep. So that's pretty much it.
Cool. And again, thanks for joining us. So,
Thank
all
you.
right. Well, with that, we will go to the list and thank everybody out there in the chat. So again, if you didn't make comments on the YouTube side, we didn't get to see that you were watching, and nobody could watch us live on Facebook tonight because we're working on making that happen again. Like I said, I don't expect everybody just to send me money to do StreamYard Pro. So I figured out sponsors might help because then you get something back out of the deal. So we'll go from there. So thank you for joining us tonight. We had Mystic Guns, Kingpin, George Washington, Iron Horseman, Blitz, Defense Dad, Pat Hirsch, Fluffy 10mm Jeep Guy, Cal, Bishop Ammunition and Firearms, Travis T, Vash Matrix, Schofield 63, Guy That Comments, Clover was out there, James Allen, Yesterday's Pomade, New York Outcast, Clint Taurus. When you say it fast, you'll understand why I said it slow. Ozzy Osbourne, G23, Guns and Barbecue. Now I'm hungry. Midnight Range TM, Ghost Tactical, and Hawaii Volcano Squad. Also, Sandhills Sweetheart was out there as well, holding it down. So thanks everybody for joining us. And on behalf of Hunter and ND Hunter, Pat and Ashley, Defense Dad, Nighthawk, and myself, and Sandhills Sweetheart, thank all of you very much for watching this. Those of you that found us on Facebook and clicked over and are watching, and even if you aren't commenting, thanks for watching that. If you're catching this on the replay, then we appreciate that too. So please hit that thumbs up button. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do that. If you haven't clicked that share button, please share the link to this conversation with anybody that you think needs to see it. Feel free to just share the heck out of it. We appreciate that. And then drop a comment down below. If you're a deer hunter, let us know what you like to use for deer, whether it's a, bow, rifle, shotgun, handgun, whatever it is. And then if it is a firearm, what's your go-to firearm and caliber? Because we want to know that kind of stuff. There's as many different answers as there are people to answer it. And I never get tired of seeing those comments and getting that feedback from you folks. So again, thanks everybody for being here. Without you, there's no reason to do this. You are the reason why we come here and do this every Tuesday night. We love you guys. God bless you. If you're hunting this fall, be safe. If you're traveling, be safe. God bless all of you. Get off my lawn.